like to welcome everybody. My name is Dr. Julia Zając, and I have a great pleasure to welcome you at another EuroBloodNet First Day webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation, please write them in the chat. And please welcome with me Professor Martin Bagot, who will present to us today treatment of cutaneous lymphomas. Professor Martin Bagot is Professor of Dermatology and Head of Dermatology Department at St. Louis Hospital, Paris University. Professor Bagot is leading the French National Reference Center for Cutaneous Lymphoma and is involved in many international research projects and trials. One of the latest achievements of the center is identification of diagnostic markers for cutaneous T-cell lymphoma and the development of the T-cell lymphoma antibody therapy, which recently passed the first phase trial and received FDA fast-track designation for accelerated development against Sézary syndrome. Professor Bagot authored 590 publications, and she is member of many prestigious associations, including International Society for Cutaneous Lymphoma and European Organization for Research and Treatment of Cancer for Cutaneous Lymphoma Task Force. Professor Bagot, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Julia. Good morning, good evening, everybody, and thank you for attending this webinar. And so today the topic is treatment of cutaneous T-cell lymphomas, but we will focus on new innovative treatments for advanced stage cutaneous T-cell lymphomas. Here are my conflicts of interests. So the objectives is to see first to know the classical treatments of cutaneous T-cell lymphomas, but also to understand the needs for innovative treatment of cutaneous lymphomas. And I will focus on the new monoclonal antibodies that have been approved for the treatment of cutaneous lymphomas, and also speak about a monoclonal antibody with a possible future approval for the treatment of cutaneous T-cell lymphomas. I guess that you already have seen cutaneous T-cell lymphomas. You see that at the beginning, patients with early stage presented with patches and plaques with a variable degree of pruritus. And 80% of these patients remain at this stage. And at this stage, the patient only need topical treatments. However, 15 to 20% will evolve towards tumor stage mycosis fungoides or erythrodermic stage mycosis fungoides. And there is also a Sézary syndrome, that characterized by erythroderma. And also Sézary syndrome is characterized by more than 1,000 per square millimeter tumor T cells in the blood. And Sézary transformed and mycosis fungoides can present a cytologic transformation defined by more than 25% of transformed cells in the skin or in blood. If we look at prognosis, you see here the survival curves according to the staging. And you see that patients with early stages, 1A, that is less than 10% of body square surface area covered by patches and plaques, or 1B, more than 10%, these patients still have a good prognosis. However, patients presenting with tumors, 2B, or erythroderma, 3B, 4, and A and 4-1, you see that they have a bad prognosis and the probability of survival decreases. And indeed, for these advanced stage patients, we do not have a curative treatments except allogeneic bone marrow transplantation. And so we need to develop new therapy for these treatments. What are the classical treatments for advanced CTCL? These patients usually need a combination of systemic treatments and local treatments. First step, systemic treatments are systemic immunomodulatory agents that can be either retinoids, bexarotene, or alpha interferon, or low-dose methotrexate. These are usually the first treatment prescribed in these patients, and they are usually combined to local treatments such as clomiphene gel, topical clomiphene gel, and that can also be, we can also perform radiotherapy, total skin electron beam therapy for early stage disease, and localized radiotherapy for localized tumors. In most cases, the patients have successively these different treatments These treatments work during several kinds of weeks or months, and then the disease evolves again. The disease recurs, and the disease is evolving. And then we have to find other types of treatments. For patients with Sézary syndrome, photopheresis or extracorporeal photopheresis can be a good treatment, a nice treatment. It can be combined to interferon or methotrexate or bexarotene, and it is a good first-line treatment for Sézary syndrome. However, in most cases, the disease recurs. Another possible line of treatment is histone deacetylase inhibitors. Vorinostat is an oral treatment with low effect. Romidepsin may work quite well in patients with CTCL. However, these drugs are not approved in Europe. They may be available as ATU in some countries, like in France, for example. We can access these treatments, but it's not the case in all European countries. So when the patients evolved after all these first lines of treatment, usually they are given monochemotherapy. We usually chosen are gemcitabine or pegylated liposomal doxorubicin. Monochemotherapy is preferred to polychemotherapy because polychemotherapy usually induces only transient and partial remissions. And all these patients, they are immunosuppressed. And one objective of the treatment, since we don't have curative treatments, is to give them treatments that can be given for a long time without impairing too much the immunity, because most of these patients will die from disseminated infection. There is only one curative treatment, that is allogeneic stem cell transplantation. However, to perform allogeneic cell transplantation, the patients need to be selected. The age, they must be not too old, not too many comorbidities, and most important, you have to be able to induce a complete remission or almost complete remission. If the patient is not in almost complete remission, the disease will recur immediately after the bone marrow transplantation. Here you can see the European experience. It is a paper by Rafa Duarte, and you see that it is quite interesting if you look at the survival. Some part of these patients, of course, they die during the first year, but then you have a plateau. So it can be, so here you see the progression-free survival and the overall survival. So for these patients for which there is no longer available treatments, it is very important to consider the possibility to do allogeneic stem cell transplantation. And so that is from not too far from the story of the disease to look for donors, either sister family donors or non-apparented donors. So this is a possibility, but it is not always possible to do allogeneic stem cell transplantation. So I showed you that there is really a need for new treatments for these patients. And as you know, targeted monoclonal antibodies are a new hope for CTCL treatment, like in many other diseases or lymphomas. And there are two kinds of monoclonal antibodies. Antibodies that destroy the tumor T cells, that they bind to NK effector cells and they destroy the tumor cells. And there are also antibodies that modulate the immune response. And you know that anti-PD-1 antibodies have induced a great progress for the treatment of many diseases, especially melanoma and also many types of cancers. And so, what are the achievements of anti-PD-1 antibodies in CTCL, advanced CTCL? Here you have a study performed by the group of Stanford. And of course, these are rare diseases. So you see the study is in low numbers of patients, only 24 patients. However, it is often the case for these patients of CTCL, often studies are on low numbers of patients. You see that these patients have received previous treatment, median 4 previous treatment, and pembrolizumab in this study was given 2 milligrams per kilogram every 3 weeks. And you see that there is an overall response rate of approximately 40% of patients, only 2 CR, 7 PR. However, it's quite interesting. The median response follow-up is 5-8 weeks. And what this study shows, interestingly, is a translational part. They observed that there was a transient worsening of erythroderma and pruritus in approximately half of the patients with Sézary syndrome, and that this cutaneous flare reaction did not result in treatment discontinuation for any patients. This FLA reaction correlated with high PD-1 expression in Sézary cells, but did not associate with subsequent clinical responses or lack of responses, you see. And so the treatment responses did not correlate with either with the expression of PD-L1, total mutation burden, or an interferon gamma gene expression signature. So this treatment may be interesting as an adjunct treatment, but we have the impression, the conclusion, is that anti-PD-1 or anti-PD-L1, there is also an anti-PD-L1 study performed by the European group. The impression is that these treatments should be combined to other treatment. They could not be given alone as a final solution for the treatment of CTCL patients. And so we speak now to you of antibodies that mainly deplete the tumor T cells, but also may modulate the immune reaction. The first antibody that was approved recently for the treatment of CTCL is brentuximab vedotin. I'm sure that you all know very well brentuximab vedotin. That is an anti-CD30 antibody drug conjugated. It is a chimeric anti-CD30 antibodies conjugated to monomethyl auristatin, that is a cytotoxic antitubulin agent. And you see that you know that the antibodies fixes the target on the tumor cells, the tumor membrane, and is internalized and then finally destroys the tumor T cells. Though this drug has been approved both in the US and in Europe for patients with primary cutaneous anaplastic large cell lymphoma or CD30 expressing mycosis fungoides after at least one prior systemic therapy. Here you can see the publication in Lancet 3 years ago, showing that brentuximab was studied against in a randomized study, the Alcanza study. It was an open-label, randomized phase 3 multicenter trial that compared brentuximab to physician choice. And actually, physician choice was either brentuximab or methotrexate. And here you can see the progression-free survival curves. You see that in the group with brentuximab vedotin, the median progression-free survival was 16 months. And in the arm of patients treated with either methotrexate or bexarotene, you see that the PFS was clearly significantly decreased. So these results are interesting. However, it is not a curative treatment. And as you know, in these cases, 2/3 of patients develop neuropathies. And so, as it is not a curative treatment, these treatments would need to be given during many months or even many years. And it will be difficult because many patients develop neuropathies that will hamper the patients to have the treatment for a long time. Here you can see the waterfall plots. Here you can see that if you consider patients with either complete remission or partial remission, that is a decrease of 50% of lesions, both in skin, in nodes and blood. You see that 77% of patients achieved PR in the group of mycosis fungoides, compared to only 41% in patients with classical treatment, conventional treatments, that is methotrexate or bexarotene. And here's the patient with anaplastic large cell lymphoma that also you see that there are much better results with brentuximab vedotin than with classical treatment. So this is a very interesting new treatment for this patient with advanced CTCL. However, possibly to be given on a long-term basis. And in this study, there had been no patients with Sézary syndrome included. We now know that some Sézary syndrome can be treated with brentuximab vedotin, but most Sézary syndrome patients do not express CD30. There is another antibody, very interesting, that has recently been approved for the treatment of advanced CTCL. That is mogamulizumab. Mogamulizumab is a humanized anti-CCR4 antibody with a defucosylated Fc region. Defucosylated means that implicates that the antibody has a better affinity for the targets and induce a better cytotoxic activity. CCR4 is expressed on T lymphocytes with a skin homing tropism, but these CCR4 lymphocytes are both tumor T lymphocytes and reactive lymphocytes with a skin tropism. CCR4 is also expressed in regulatory T cells, and this will be important. You see that this antibody will also destroy regulatory T cells. We know that CCR4 is overexpressed in almost all ATL, skin ATL, in many PTCL and many CTCL. And so is the paper that reported the Maverick study. Maverick study was an international open label randomized controlled phase 3 trial published 2 years ago in Lancet Oncology. And this study was performed on a great number of patients. You see 372 patients that were randomized in 59 centers across 11 countries. The patients included were patients with stage 1B to 4B, histology confirmed mycosis fungoides or real Sézary syndrome, having failed at least one prior course of systemic therapy. And patients with large cell transformation were excluded from the study. There was a CCR4 expression level was not an eligibility criterion. And patients, the randomization was 1-1, and patients were maintained with mogamulizumab. They received mogamulizumab weekly for the first month, and then every 2 weeks. And they were maintained until a relapse or intolerable toxicity. And it was possible to perform a crossover for the group of patients treated with vorinostat. If the patient progressed, there could be a crossover to the arm with mogamulizumab. Sorry, it doesn't work. Sorry, Julia, I don't. Okay, thank you. So these are the primary endpoint was progression-free survival, and you see that the group of patients with mogamulizumab had a better progression-free survival than the group of patients with vorinostat. And here you can see the waterfall plot. You see that again, if you consider complete response and partial response, the percentage of patients with the complete or partial response was much significantly higher in the group of patients with mogamulizumab than in the group of patients with vorinostat. Also, much more patients progressing in the group of vorinostat. So this may be quite interesting treatment. And based on this trial, mogamulizumab was approved both in the US and in Europe in 2018 for relapse or refractory mycosis fungoides or Sézary syndrome after at least one prior systemic therapy. And actually, the results were much better in patients with erythrodermic mycosis fungoides and Sézary syndrome. What are the side effects of these treatments? You can see that in the mogamulizumab group, most side effects were classical infusion-related reactions. And you see that 25% presented drug reactions. And it is interesting to study these drug reactions because they are not a relapse of the disease. They are drug reactions induced by the drug. And it is very important because some patients with the drug reactions will present a good response to the treatment. These were the side effects induced by vorinostat. And you see these are classical side effects: fatigue, nausea, thrombocytopenia. And these side effects you see share good. Finally, the side effects of vorinostat seem less important than the side effects induced by vorinostat. Interestingly, treatment with mogamulizumab, as I told you, may induce autoimmunity. I will show you the story of one of our patients that was published in British Journal of Dermatology. This patient had a few infusions of it was a Sézary syndrome patient, and this patient was relapsing after 8 prior lines of previous treatment, including 3 cycles of alemtuzumab. So a heavily pre-treated patient. And these patients, after having a few infusions of mogamulizumab, rapidly presented a rash. And so the treatment was stopped, and then finally she developed several other types of autoimmunity. She developed diffuse alopecia areata, quite severe autoimmune hepatitis, vitiligo, and autoimmune thyroiditis. But the good news was this patient has been now in complete remission without any treatment for more than 5 years. You see that the patient he's in complete remission. She has vitiligo. And interestingly, we could show that a depletion in CCR4 expressing Tregs could activate cytotoxic lymphocyte and explain these durable responses. So mogamulizumab is able to deplete the tumor T cells, but also to modulate the immune response. And so it is also, again, a very interesting new treatment in patients with CTCL, especially Sézary syndrome. And now, to finish, I will speak to you about a possible new other treatment of patients with CTCL and Sézary syndrome. This is antibodies against KIR3DL2. KIR3DL2 is a killer inhibitory receptor named CD158K. And it has been shown that this receptor is atypically expressed by Sézary cells and is currently used for the diagnostic and follow-up of patients with Sézary syndrome. Here you can see that CD4 T lymphocytes expressing CD158K are almost clonal, whereas CD lymphocytes expressing not expressing CD158K are extremely polyclonal. And so this marker allows to identify the tumor T cells both in skin and blood. In addition, most CTCL patients express these molecules. Here you can see expression in the skin of a patient with a Sézary syndrome patient. And you see that many types of CTCL express KIR3DL2, namely mycosis fungoides, transformed mycosis fungoides, Sézary syndrome, and also other types of TNK lymphoma, HTLV1 lymphoma. And so it is very important to develop antibody directed against this targeted biomarker. And so an antibody named IPH4102, now named lacutamab, was raised. It was a first-in-class monoclonal antibody directed against KIR3DL2. And you see that in ex vivo preliminary studies, you see that these experiments isolated NK cells of the patients and Sézary cells of the patient. And you see that there was a high autocytotoxicity with this antibody comparable to the autotoxicity seen with alemtuzumab if you put together the NK cells of the patients and the tumor cells of the patients. So based on this preclinical trial, there was a clinical phase 1 and 2 trial that was performed. And you see that this antibody gave high overall response rates. 42% of patients achieved a complete or partial response. And it is very interesting if you consider that many of these patients received a low dose treatment because it was a phase 1 with escalating dose. You can also see that some patients having failed mogamulizumab responded to this treatment. So it might be a possibility for patients having failed to previous treatment with mogamulizumab. And it is also interesting to consider that patients with large cell transformation presented a less interesting response. You see that these patients with Asterix, they were transformed. And you see that in these groups of patients, the results were less brilliant. Here you can see the efficacy, the long-term efficacy. You see that this patient presented a quite durable response with a response of 13 months. You see that this patient with PCR was a very long-term response. Also, many patients with PR presented a long-term response. Many patients also presented a stabilization of the disease. Stabilization of the disease means regression of the lesion of less than 50% or an increase of less than 25%. So there was also quite an interesting group of stabilization disease. And as I can tell you, we don't have so many treatments for these patients with Sézary syndrome. And of course, it's very interesting to achieve CR or PR, but patients with the stabilization of the disease are also extremely happy. These patients are very disturbed by pruritus. Patients with Sézary syndrome are very disturbed. And interestingly, you see that patients with CR and PR had a decrease of the pruritus, of course, but patients with also with stabilization disease also presented a decrease with time of the pruritus. And so this is extremely interesting also for the management of these treatments. Also, this study presented an improvement of quality of life. You see it in the skin index. This is a quality of life index measured for patients with skin diseases. And you evaluate symptoms, emotions, functions. And again, it was very interesting is that there was a decrease for patients with CR and PR, but also a decrease of all kinds of Skindex items for patients with stabilization of the disease. What now is the translational? There were also in this study exploratory biomarkers. And you can see this is a story of a 77-year-old woman that had received 6 prior lines of systemic therapy. And she had all the classical treatments. She had also had treatment with mogamulizumab. And you see that here, the KIR3DL2 positive lymphocytes in the skin at baseline, you see that the cells had completely disappeared at week 5. And this predicted a very good response in the skin, still lasting at week 64. So it's very interesting because it is possible to predict the response by examining the tumor T cells in the skin. Again, some work was done in the blood, and you can see that the number of aberrant cells, tumor T cells, can be evaluated in the blood of patients with Sézary syndrome, either by identifying the number of CD7 negative or CD26 negative, CD4 positive T cells. You see that these cells decrease in the blood in patients with CR and PR, but also there is a delayed decrease in patients with stabilization disease with time. And it is, of course, also possible to identify the tumor T cells expressing KIR3DL2 cells, and you have exactly the same response. You see that patients with CR and PR have a rapid decrease of the tumor T cells in the blood, and also patients with stabilization disease have a delayed decrease of the cells in the blood. Here you can see the identification of tumor cells by flow cytometry with CD26 negative cells expressing KIR3DL2. You see that these cells disappear with time. And also it is possible to identify tumor T cells expressing TCR-V beta and co-expressing KIR3DL2. You see that these cells progressively decrease and disappear. And also what was very interesting was to consider if these antibodies directed against NK cells induced a depletion of absolute counts of blood NK cells. And you see that this is not the case. Sézary patients' NK cells are completely functional and their number is normal, so there is no depletion during the treatment. So there is really a targeted monoclonal antibodies, not depleting non-tumor T cells and maintaining the immune function of the patient. That is very important because, as I told you, usually these patients are very immunodepressed. And so these results of this trial were published last year in Lancet Oncology, and this is a new hope for the treatment of the patient with T-cell lymphoma. And this study showed a favorable safety profile and very encouraging clinical results for this antibody named lacutamab, given as a single agent, patient with relapsed and refractory Sézary syndrome. And based on these results, the FDA granted last year a fast track designation for this antibody for the management of relapsed refractory Sézary syndrome. And so now we have a phase 2 study named TELOMAC. And this phase 2 study has several arms. A Sézary syndrome arm, and the patient included in this arm must have failed at least 2 prior systemic therapies, including mogamulizumab, because mogamulizumab is now approved for the treatment as second line of Sézary syndrome. And so the FDA asked the positioning of lacutamab to be after treatment with mogamulizumab. And there is also arms with mycosis fungoides because most patients in the first study were Sézary syndrome. And so there are 2 arms of patients treated with mycosis fungoides, either expressing or not expressing KIR3DL2. And there are also a trial with peripheral T-cell lymphoma, but due to the COVID crisis, this arm is currently on hold. And so this is during this presentation, I showed you that brentuximab vedotin is a new interesting treatment of CD30 expressing cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. I showed you that mogamulizumab is a new, efficient, very interesting new treatment of cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, especially Sézary syndrome. And I'll also show you that lacutamab is a potentially new treatment for cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, also especially Sézary syndrome. There was supposed to be an EORTC international meeting on cutaneous T-cell lymphoma of the European group. And this meeting was planned in October 2020 in Marseille. And due to the COVID crisis, this meeting has been moved to 2021 in June, again in Marseille. And so if you are interested in cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, it is a very interesting international, European and also international meeting with all innovation in the field of cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. So thank you for listening, and I'm very happy to answer the question now.
Thank you very much, Professor Bagot. And I encourage the audience to ask questions in the chat.
The question is brentuximab a good treatment for Sézary syndrome? So as I told you, there is no approval for brentuximab vedotin in Sézary syndrome. However, it may happen in some Sézary syndrome that brentuximab vedotin may induce a very good response, even if Sézary syndrome does not express CD30. So this may worth to be trying, especially for some patients for which bone marrow allogeneic bone transplantation is planned and these patients have not achieved a complete remission. It is possible to try brentuximab either alone or combined to bendamustine to induce a complete remission in order for the patient to experience a bone marrow transplantation.
It's in the common chat. Are there any synergistic effects between IPH agent and radiotherapy in your study?
It has not been studied because this antibody, there were trials. The first, which was a phase 1-2 trial, and now we have another 2 trial, but it's a single agent alone. I guess that you are referring to the synergy between radiotherapy and mogamulizumab. It's quite interesting. But for IPH 4102, there was no combination until now. We are still in the field of trials. Until what age can you perform allogeneic bone marrow transplantation? So if the patient has no comorbidities and if the team is very experienced, it is possible to do bone marrow transplantation until 70. So it's quite a large, you can do this treatment in quite a large array of patients.
Thank you, Professor Bagot, for this great presentation. And I also would like to encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter. And you can also follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And also, I would like to invite you for the next webinars under the First Day webinar program. Thank you very much for joining us today, and see you next time.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.